Just sign it, Mara. Clay Ellis shoved the clipboard toward me so hard the pen rolled off and clicked against the driveway. Behind him, a man I barely knew stood beside a tow trailer, pretending not to watch me wipe my eyes with the sleeve of Daniel's old flannel. And there it was, parked between us like a witness. My husband's dark green 1998 Chevy, sun faded on the hood, mud still packed in the tires from the last job Daniel ever drove it to. Clay sighed loud enough for the buyer to hear. You're making everyone uncomfortable. It's a truck. Daniel wouldn't want you falling apart over junk. My fingers tightened around the keys. For 4 months after Daniel's funeral, Clay had handled everything. The estate forms, the bank calls, the repair shop messages. Every time I asked a question, he answered like I was too fragile to understand my own life. But when he reached over and tried to take Daniel's keys from my hand, something in me moved before I could think. I'm cleaning it out first, I said. Clay's smile disappeared. I already checked it. I didn't ask you to. I walked past him and climbed into Daniel's truck before he could stop me. The door groaned the same way it always had. The cab smelled like motor oil, sawdust, peppermint gum, and the ghost of every morning Daniel had kissed me goodbye from that driver's seat. For 1 second, my hand hovered over the steering wheel, and I almost backed out. Then Clay knocked on the window. 10 minutes, he snapped. The buyer shifted by the trailer. Clay pointed at the clipboard like I was wasting money we didn't have. He wasn't wrong about the money. The mortgage was behind. The insurance bills had turned into a stack of envelopes I could barely look at. Selling the Chevy was supposed to help me breathe again. But Clay had pushed too hard. He had called it sentimental junk. He had told neighbors I was not in a place to make decisions. He had spoken to Daniel's attorney without me in the room. And now he was standing outside the truck, watching me like there was something inside he didn't want me to find. I opened the glove box first. Registration papers, a cracked flashlight, a gas receipt from 3 weeks before Daniel died. Then I checked beneath the seat and found his work gloves, stiff with dust. Nothing. Clay knocked again, harder this time. Mara, let's go. I reached for the center console. The latch stuck, just like it always had. Daniel used to smack it twice with the heel of his hand and laugh when it popped open. I did the same thing without meaning to. The lid lifted. At first, I saw loose change, old napkins, and 2 sticks of peppermint gum. Then my fingers brushed against the plastic tray inside. It shifted. I frowned and pulled it up. Underneath, taped flat against the bottom of the console, was a sealed envelope. My name was written across it in Daniel's handwriting. Myra only. My chest tightened. Then I saw the second line. If Clay is pushing you to sell, do not sign anything. Outside, Clay's fist hit the window. What are you doing in there? I stared at my dead husband's warning, my hand shaking so badly the envelope scraped against the console. Why had Daniel hidden a message about his own brother inside the truck? I folded the envelope once and slipped it inside my coat before I unlocked the truck door. Clay was standing so close that the door nearly bumped his stomach. What did you find? He asked. His voice had changed, softer, careful, the same voice he used at the funeral when he told people, Mara's not ready to deal with the practical things yet. Nothing, I said. His eyes moved past my face, straight to the open center console. You look pale. I said I found nothing. Clay smiled, but it never reached his eyes. Then signed the papers. I need a minute inside. Myra. I said I need a minute. I walked into the house and shut the door before he could follow me. In the laundry room, between a humming dryer and a basket of Daniel's work shirts I still hadn't donated, I tore open the envelope. For one horrible second, I thought I was about to read a confession. Daniel had been strange during that last month, quiet at dinner, awake in the garage after midnight, ending phone calls the second I walked in. I had wondered about another woman. I hated myself for wondering it after he died, but grief does cruel things when silence leaves too much room. Inside the envelope was a folded letter. Myra, if you're reading this, Clay is moving faster than I could stop him. I found problems in the shop accounts, missing money, fake vendor payments, cash withdrawals I didn't authorize. I haven't proved all of it yet, but I know enough to tell you this. Do not trust Clay with titles, checks, signatures, or anything he says I already approved. My hand pressed over my mouth. Not another woman. Not a secret life. Clay. The back door opened without a knock. I shoved the letter under a towel, just as Clay stepped into the kitchen. The buyer's about to leave, he said, too loudly. You're turning this into something it doesn't need to be. I'm postponing the sale. His jaw tightened. No, you're not. I looked up. Clay walked toward the table where the sale papers sat. I filed the estate forms. I've been talking to the bank. The truck is basically transferred already. If you start backing out now, people are going to think you're unstable. Then I saw it. On the title transfer, near the bottom. Daniel Ellis. Signed in blue ink. Dated 2 days after his funeral. The room narrowed around that paper. Clay reached for the clipboard. Just let me handle it. I picked it up first. His face went still. I folded the title transfer, slid it into my purse, and looked him straight in the eye. Then I'm taking this to someone who knows his real signature. Ellis Auto Repair went quiet the moment I walked in. 3 mechanics stood near the service bay. 1 customer leaned against the counter with a coffee, and Clay's wife, Renee, was sorting invoices beside the register. The smell of rubber, grease, and burnt coffee hit me so hard it almost felt like Daniel might step out from behind the office door. Renee looked up. Mara, is everything okay? I put the folded title transfer on the counter. I need the old shop ledger Daniel kept back here. One of the mechanics lowered his wrench. Before Renee could answer, the front door opened behind me. Clay came in smiling. Not angry, not worried. Smiling. There she is, he said loudly, like he was greeting a confused child. Everybody, sorry about this. Mara's having one of those grief spirals. Heat climbed up my neck. I'm asking for a ledger, I said. Clay laughed once. You're accusing me in front of customers now. I'm asking where Daniel's records are. The customer by the counter looked at the floor. Renee stepped around the register, voice gentle. Myra, Clay has been doing everything he can for you since Daniel passed. That doesn't answer my question. Another customer, an older man in a work jacket, cleared his throat. Daniel and Clay were like brothers. Maybe this isn't the place. Clay spread his hands, as if that proved everything. I opened the title transfer on the counter and pointed to the date. This says Daniel signed it 2 days after he was buried. Renee's face changed. Clay reached for the paper, but I pulled it back. The ledger, I said. Clay's smile thinned. It was thrown out during cleanup. Old paperwork, nothing important. From the service bay, Lewis, the youngest mechanic, shifted his weight. Clay turned his head. Don't. Lewis swallowed. Daniel didn't throw everything out. The shop went still. I looked at him. What do you mean? Lewis wiped his hands on a rag. A week before his heart attack, Daniel asked me to put a backup thumb drive in the office safe. Said if anyone asked, I hadn't seen it. Clay's face hardened so fast even Renee noticed. That is enough, Clay said. Lewis took a step back. I'm just saying what happened. Clay pointed at the door. Mara, leave. Now. You're not turning family business into some widow gossip show. No. The word came out louder than I expected. I looked at Renee. Open the safe. Renee's eyes flicked to Clay. Clay. He moved in front of the office door. Payroll records are in there. Employee information. She has no right. She has Daniel's name on half this building, Lewis said quietly. Clay snapped. Stay out of this. Renee stood frozen, one hand against the counter. Then she whispered, Daniel changed the safe code before he died. Clay stared at her. Renee's voice shook. He told me he was tired of being lied to. No one moved. Then Louis slipped past Clay into the back office. A metal keypad beeped. 1 second. 2. The safe door creaked. And from the back office, Louis called out, "Mara, the safe is empty." Clay's laugh came first. It was small, sharp, and ugly. "Well," he said, turning toward the mechanics and customers, "there's your big evidence." Renee stood at the office doorway with one hand on the frame. Louis was still beside the open safe, staring into the empty metal box like something had been stolen right in front of him. Clay looked at me and raised his voice. "You dragged everyone into this over nothing." "That safe wasn't supposed to be empty," I said. "And you know that how?" Clay stepped closer. "Because you found some old paper and decided Daniel's own brother must be a criminal." The customer with the coffee set his cup down and looked away. Renee's face had gone red, but she didn't speak. Clay pulled out his phone. "I'm calling Helen. The estate attorney needs to know you're interfering with business property." That landed exactly where he wanted it to. For a second, I was just the widow making a scene in my husband's shop. I picked up the forged title and walked out before he could see my hands shake. Outside, Daniel's Chevy sat by the curb, still dusty from my driveway, still carrying the envelope that had started everything. I had barely reached the driver's door when Louis hurried after me. "Myra." I turned. He glanced back at the shop windows. Daniel was scared this might happen. "What might happen?" "The safe." His voice dropped. "He told me if Clay gets there first, the truck has the real copy." I thought he meant registration papers or something. I didn't understand. My fingers went cold around the keys. I climbed back into the Chevy and opened the center console again. This time I didn't stop at the envelope. I pulled at the loose lining beneath it until the tape peeled back. Something metal dropped into my palm. A small key. Under it was a receipt from a private mailbox store Daniel had opened 3 weeks before he died. In Daniel's handwriting, across the bottom, were 5 words. Box 417, password, peppermint. Clay burst through the shop door. "Mara." I started the truck. He ran toward the curb, phone still in his hand. "Do not drive away with that truck." For the first time all day, I didn't answer him. I pulled into traffic with Daniel's engine rumbling beneath me, and Clay's calls lighting up the dashboard screen one after another. At the mailbox store, the clerk checked my ID, then paused when I gave the password. "Peppermint," she repeated. "Yes, Mr. Ellis said you might come." She handed me a sealed padded envelope. Inside were photocopied checks, bank statements, title documents, and a flash drive labeled in black marker. "Clay, final proof." I flipped through the papers until one notarized page made my knees weaken. Daniel had signed the truck over to me months before he died. Sole owner, Myra Ellis. Then my phone buzzed. Clay's text filled the screen. "Bring back what you took, or I'll tell everyone what Daniel was really hiding from you." Before I could type a single word, the phone rang. Helen Voss, estate attorney. I answered with my breath caught in my throat. "Mrs. Ellis," she said, "we need to talk about your husband's signature." Helen Voss's office was 15 minutes from the mailbox store. I drove there with Daniel's padded envelope buckled into the passenger seat like it was alive. Helen met me at the door herself. She was a thin woman with silver glasses, a navy blazer, and a face that went still the second she saw the forged title in my hand. "Clay told me you were confused," she said. "I'm not confused anymore." I laid everything across her conference table. Daniel's letter from the center console, the title transfer dated after his funeral, the mailbox documents, the bank statements, the photocopied checks, and the flash drive marked Clay final proof. Helen didn't speak for several minutes. She read Daniel's letter first. Then she compared the 2 truck titles side by side. "This signature," she said, tapping Clay's transfer, is not Daniel. My throat tightened. You're sure? I prepared documents for your husband for 9 years. I'm sure. She pointed to the date. And even without handwriting analysis, this document claims Daniel signed 2 days after he died. She opened the bank statements next. The truth came out piece by piece, clean and terrible. Clay had been siphoning money from Ellis Auto Repair through fake vendor payments, emergency cash withdrawals, and checks made out to suppliers that didn't exist. When Daniel confronted him, Clay claimed he had gambling debts and promised it was only temporary. But Daniel kept digging. Helen slid one document toward me. It was worse than theft. Clay had prepared forged estate paperwork before Daniel died. A truck transfer, a business authority form, documents that would let Clay take control if Daniel became incapacitated or if I was too overwhelmed to object. He wasn't just stealing from the shop, Helen said. He was preparing to take control from both of you. I stared at Daniel's handwriting on the envelope. So he hid it in the truck because he knew Clay would make me sell it. Helen nodded. And he put the stronger evidence in the mailbox because Clay could search the house, the shop, even the safe. The center console had not been hiding Daniel's betrayal. It had been hiding Daniel's last attempt to protect me. Helen plugged in the flash drive. A video file opened. Daniel appeared on the screen in our garage, sitting beneath the yellow work light. He looked exhausted, unshaven, wearing the gray sweatshirt I used to steal when the house got cold. Mara, he said, and my fingers dug into the edge of the table. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I wanted proof before I scared you. His voice cracked once, and he looked away. Clay been taking money, and if I'm right, he's going to try to make you think I left things messy. I didn't. The truck is yours, not because it's worth much. Because that old Chevy always knew the way home, and so will you. I pressed my hand over my mouth, but I did not fall apart. I leaned closer to the screen and whispered, You were trying to come back to me. Helen filed the emergency challenge that afternoon. Clay's authority over the estate was suspended. The disputed shop accounts were frozen. Copies of the forged signatures and stolen funds went to law enforcement. By 5 o'clock, we were back at Ellis Auto Repair. Clay was at the counter, laughing too loudly with a customer, until Helen walked in with the legal notice. What is this? He said. Notice of emergency suspension, Helen answered. Renee came out of the office. Louis stepped from the service bay. 2 mechanics stopped working. Clay snatched the papers, scanned the first page, and forced a laugh. This is ridiculous. Mara doesn't understand what she's doing. Helen placed copies of the forged title and fake payment records on the counter. Renee picked one up. Her face emptied. Clay, she said, barely above a whisper, tell me this isn't real. He looked at her, then at me, then at the employees watching him. Louis stepped forward. Daniel told me to protect the backup. I should have listened sooner. Clay pointed at him. You're fired. No one moved. One of the older mechanics crossed his arms. You don't control payroll anymore. Clay lost the shop accounts, the estate position, and the story he had been telling everyone. Renee walked out from behind the counter without defending him. The buyer from my driveway came in 2 days later and apologized. Clay had told him to rush the sale before the widow got difficult. I kept Daniel's Chevy long enough to clear every compartment, every pocket, every place he might have left one final message. Then I sold it on my terms to a local father restoring one with his teenage son. The money went into my account, not through Clay, not through some paperwork maze I was too fragile to understand. A month later, Helen helped make me the legal representative of Daniel's share of the business. Months after that, I drove past the shop and saw the new sign above the bay doors. Ellis Garage, Daniel Ellis Memorial Fund. Trade school students came there now. Louis helped run the program. At home, the driveway looked strange without the green Chevy in it. For a while, that empty space would have broken me. But now, when I looked at it, I didn't see what had been taken. I saw room. Mara sold Daniel's truck, but what she found inside gave her back her husband's truth and finally took Clay's power away.